Hello, and welcome to the Age of AI, our series covering the rapid evolution of the AI landscape, exploring what's now, what's next, and how that impacts the world of business, the workplace, individuals, and the world. I'm your host, Shelley Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Kramer&Co., and I'm so glad to be here with you today. So, today we're going to do something different. We're going to talk about AI. Oh, wait, isn't that all we talk about these days? With good reason, I suppose, but actually we're going to talk about the adoption of agentic AI. Agentic AI is the autonomous, goal-driven systems that are integrated into organizational workflows. And these play a vital role in a company's success overall with AI. Agentic AI can deliver compounding, hard to replicate competitive advantages. It can dramatically improve efficiency, unlock new value streams well beyond what traditional automation or Gen AI can offer. And we're going to explore the current state of agentic AI adoption and why adoption of agentic AI can be really, truly a major competitive differentiator. We're going to talk about some of the barriers that get in the way of organizations diving in and fully embracing agentic AI. And we're going to explore what I like to call Zoho's bold play, which is offering free agentic AI to customers to help break down those enterprise adoption barriers. And for this conversation, I'm joined by Rakeeb Rafeek, who's the head of brand marketing at Zoho Workplace. Rakeeb, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shelley. Very, very nice to have you. Love to talk about adoption and everything that's happening in agentic AI across, Zoho as a suite, but also Zoho Workplace, the email and collaboration products that we work on. Lovely to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Okay, Rakeeb, before we dive in, I'd love for you to share, if you would, kind of a quick overview of your career journey, and then maybe give us a peek into your role at Zoho.
Yeah. If I'm right, it's been 10 years so far. I started with product marketing at Zoho, basically doing I was probably the only marketer that was hired for one of those products back then. So I had to do almost everything around, right? So I do product marketing, I do product strategy, I did partner engagement, I did user education, working with design and stuff like that, probably everything around the board. Then I slowly started working with an entire suite, and then I worked up, started also talking about the other products that we have around this category of products, which is the collaboration suite of products as well. It's been 10 years now. Zoho, straight out of college, I did join Zoho when it was not, a lot of famous. It's not that famous. It's really quite a big thing in India right now. But back then, we really didn't know what Zoho was. I thought, okay, it's a good company, it's a good culture. Let's see what happens. And then we joined and been loving my time here.
You know, what I find, Rakeeb, and I know and talk with many of your peers on a regular basis, people come to Zoho and they stay. And that, to me, says a lot about the culture of a company, because that's not the case across the board. So I am not surprised to hear you say that. Let's now start talking about the current state of agentic AI adoption. The research shows that there's really a massive gap between the enthusiasm about agentic AI and actual implementation. While some 90% of IT executives have shared that they believe in the potential of agentic AI, only about 37% are actually using it. What do you see that's causing this disconnect?
I think it's one of those rare times to be in where it's really good to be a geek, right? So if you get excited about technology, but you can also make money out of it, right? So that's what there's tons and tons of money that's pouring into AI, but it's not a lot of actual product that you can see and you can show. That's very rare in tech. Mind you, that doesn't happen quite often, right? So in tech, money you pay has always been for a product that exists, say, your laptop, your phones, and things like that. They announce it comes in next week, and you start using it, you see the value, and then you kind of start talking about it, things like that. But right now, people are not really sure of what the product itself is, right? But regardless of that, they're still forced to pay because one, there's a lot of hype that's going around it, but two, there's also been a lot of push from the vendors as well, to kind of make sense of all the investment that they're getting and the money that's flowing in and all that. Ultimately the customer is, forced to pay the price. They see, say for example, they see the product and they know the value of, regardless of whether it's generative AI or agentic AI. I'm personally sure that there'll be more companies coming forward to kind of bridge the skill gap. So that's the most important part of why this adoption has been, minimal in a lot of companies, because once you put in the training and the skill, you try to bridge the skill gap, and help more knowledge workers kind of make use of both of these technologies, generative AI and agentic AI. I'm very sure the numbers will kind of go really, really well. I'm really positive about AI, but right now there is a bottleneck. It's the chicken and egg problem, I would like to say, because there's no product that is extremely valuable to people, but there's also a lot of interest, there's a lot of money coming into it. How do you manage this? That's why the gap, I think, is the result.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it just hit it on the head there. One of the studies that I read recently showed that, to your point about workforce readiness and the gap that exists there, only about 29% of organizations say their workforce is ready to leverage AI. And so, I think that's a factor. And that readiness, in my experience, extends to data and having your arms around data and data management. And then a lot of times you've got integration nightmares and dealing with legacy systems and things like that. There are some costs
Exactly.
involved that can bring uncertainties because, of course, we're all focused on costs, especially now. So I do think that those are some very real things that are in play there. And I think also, my personal opinion is that there's a trust gap, and I mean, people are, I think, paying attention. Certainly leaders are paying attention.
Mhm.
But beyond senior leadership, sometimes for rank and file employee bases, there's some uncertainty there, and it's difficult to just jump in with both legs and trust something that you really don't know a lot about. So I think there's a lot of things at play here.
Exactly, because once, if you really need agentic AI to work, you probably have to give the AI stack access to all of your company data.
Yep.
That's where, like you said, the trust issues come into place, because how do I trust some other company, say this AI or this model, to kind of read through all of my, because that's really the most important aspect of a company, right? That's the knowledge that you've created, that's the
Right.
data that you handle, that's the confidentiality that you have, right? So that's privacy for the company itself is in play right now. uh, this There are multiple ways to solve this. So there's one of the ways is to kind of minimize the kind of size of these models, and then optimize it for the business purposes, and make sure that there is a stack that kind of connects across all of these, rather than exchanging your information from one model to another. So that's really something that even at Zoho we keep trying to do. This is that we want to create an LLM that doesn't send your data out, or that doesn't is not, number one, is not trained on your data. That's another thing as well, right? So not even getting information or getting inference from your data, but also
Yeah.
whether my data is being used to train this model that is being used now for other companies as well. So that is something that we personally believe in, and that's what is taking time for us to kind of come out with an entire language model that connects across all of these products. So that's
Yeah.
really the trust gap. I think in a matter of year or two, people will be comfortable more about this, because more
Yeah.
companies will now understand, or more vendors will now understand that this has been the problem, and they'll try to fix it, rather than just create a flashy model that kind of does everything. We kind of
Yeah.
narrow it down, do smaller things, but then do it really well based on your company's data. That's even when I travel for my customers, our conferences and stuff like that. That's really the feedback that we're getting from our customers as well. Is that, hey, okay, you've speaking about generating email, you're speaking about generating documents and things like that. If I really want my company to kind of have that augmentation in terms of productivity, these documents and these emails have to be created in the way I create. So can it
Yes.
connect to a knowledge base of what my company is? Can I train it based on what my company usually does, and then generate and talk in a way my company talks? So I think more and more companies are going into that direction, and that will boost the adoption even further.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, centering in on the trust factor, I'll give a personal example here. Rakeeb, at the end of last year, I replaced a couple of computers. So I bought a new iMac and I bought a new Apple laptop. And both of those are the latest gen and, are AI powered. And
Mhm.
so as I'm setting these up, and I'm not paying any attention to how they're AI powered or anything else, but as I'm setting this up, I realize that the, they deliver AI by way of an integration with ChatGPT, which means I need to connect ChatGPT to everything that I'm doing. And
Mhm.
by the way, neither one of my computers have been connected in any way because I don't want to do that. I don't feel
Exactly.
comfortable. And by the way, I am deeply immersed in this space and I don't trust uh, this situation. And so it's not, I think it would be like if I had a choice, maybe
Mhm.
between AI platforms to use or whatever. It's just too early, in my opinion, for me to trust completely OpenAI and give this company access to everything I do, all of my data, everything else. So I do think that trust is just a fundamental underpinning that gets in the way, which is how having that proprietary LLM, I think,
Mhm.
is an attractive part of Zoho's value proposition.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think it should be always an option. If the customer do want to kind of work with another vendor, we give
yeah,
options to that. But if you don't
yeah,
want to do that, we never turn it on by default.
yeah,
I'm not really sure how the other vendors do it, but at Zoho, all of these integrations are turned off by default. So if you want to enable our AI bridge, which is what we call the integration bridge to work with other vendors, if you want to work
you
with
can do that.
OpenAI, Gemini, and all that, you have to turn it on, put your controls in, and then use it in your own manner, and we never turn it on by default.
Yeah, I like that. So, Rakeeb, you said something earlier that, it's a great time to be a geek. And I, too, am fully flying my geek flag. But let's step back and, share why people like us, geeks, are talking about the adoption of agentic AI and why it's something that we view as really essential.
I would personally believe all technology becomes a mass adopted technology when it kind of reduces your cognitive load, right? This is something probably we don't talk about a lot. Say, why did iPhone become so successful? Because it did a lot of things. It took a lot of load out of us and did a lot of things. But like, just you turn your phone, it turns the screen as well. You do a lot of these apps within the phone. You don't need another device. You get all that within it. You have music in it and stuff like that. So a lot of things that kind of reduces the cognitive load kind of ends up in a mass adoption kind of a way where everybody adopts this. So this is again one of those transcending moments in the industry, I personally believe, where the business user now has an opportunity to reduce the cognitive load on them. So we've always been about connecting workflows from, this is your trigger, this is your action, and doing that and all that, and then it doesn't work, you have to add another condition. Say you add one if and then add another else, and you add one more if and another else, and things like that. It usually gets really messy, right? At the end of the day, your workflow looks like I don't even know who worked on these workflows. So it's one of those rare opportunities where there is a technology that looks into your data or looks into what you have in your company, and then understands, takes that decision on your behalf, and then goes into the next stage. So you don't really, you're not wiring up the entire workflow that doesn't make sense after a point, where you're just saying you're adding an AI element here. Now said, hey, look into my, for example, this is what we've done in Zoho Mail, right? So what we've done is, Zia, which is our AI, it looks into your emails and then understands whether some of those emails are supposed to be your sales emails, whether they can be converted as leads. So if there are sales prospects that are coming in, it automatically reads those leads and understands and converts them into a CRM lead by default. It asks whether, of course, we do have this policy of assist, don't bypass. So we'll never gonna be doing all of these automatically. Mind you, I've never written any workflows for this, right? It's the AI that's looking into your email, and I'm never saying it if the email has this particular word or this particular word. It is nothing static in that way. It is very dynamic. Excuse me. So I think that's one of the main reasons why we are excited about this, because suddenly I have a true assistant that can understand things in a more dynamic way, which reduces the cognitive load that I have on my everyday work. So I think that's, for me, the reduction of cognitive load is the most important part that keeps me exciting.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that, sometimes I feel like what we, perhaps the industry as a whole, may occasionally lose sight of as we talk about AI, whether it's, AI in general or agentic AI, is that I think when we just boil it right down, I think your point about reducing the cognitive load is incredibly important. But when we boil it down even further, it's about creating better experiences, for workers,
Mm-hmm.
helping, automating complex end-to-end workflows, speeding the decision-making process,
Exactly.
a speed to innovation. All of those things are wonderful. But what I think, when we look at it boiled down to the most base level, what we're looking at is creating better experiences for workers,
Mm-hmm.
making their jobs less onerous, reducing that cognitive load that you talk about. But then at the end of that spectrum, we're also creating better experiences for customers, because we're able to serve them more effectively. We're able to serve them in a more enjoyable way. And I think that's really such an important part of this conversation around AI. It's all about experiences.
Exactly. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I read this somewhere that instead of replacing you, it kind of makes you a better you. It increases the
Yeah.
scope of what you can do alone at work. So, say I had, this is what my job was, and there's so many other complementary things that I'm supposed to do. Now with AI, it kind of increases the scope of what I can do as myself
Yeah.
and contribute to the company. I think that's gigantic. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, I think that those of us in this industry, we talk a lot about the competitive differentiator that agentic AI in particular can be. And we're all familiar with automation, and many of us are familiar with AI from a content generation process, and how Gen AI in particular, can help speed that process. But what agentic AI does is, that autonomous optimization of processes and adapting seamlessly to business conditions, and then accumulating proprietary knowledge over time that kind of results in this knowledge moat. We talked earlier about a skills gap and all of that sort of thing, and a knowledge gap. But these kinds of things are what agentic AI delivers, that I think are incredibly valuable, that play a big role here.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it goes from just a list of set of rules to a very dynamic world where things are possible just as you imagine them. So that's really beautiful, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Rakeeb, what do you see? I know you're out there in the trenches all day, every day, talking with customers. What do you see? What are you hearing from customers that are the most common barriers to agentic AI adoption?
Yeah, one, like I said, is the context itself, right?
Yeah,
These emails that I'm generating, these documents that I'm creating, these are not really like me. That's been the number one problem that I've seen almost all our customers across all of these events that I go, we talk about our AI features. That's the number one thing that I'm noticing. So that's what we're working on. We did something around that in terms of Zia hubs, where you create a hub and then you start asking questions and creates like a based on that kind of knowledge base, you generate stuff. That was one of the main problems. I think the industry is also slowly realizing that fact, and more vendors I think will work on something like that. Number two, I think, like I said, the gap between seeing the value and spending more on it, right? So I'm experimenting with something like that. So I'm experimenting with purchasing an AI and then putting it to use for my company and all that. But if I'm not really seeing exponential value, I'm not going to
Yeah.
put a lot of money into training my people on that. So
Yeah.
this gap is huge. I think it'll be solved very very soon. I'm a very strong believer in this, so I'm not saying this is all a hype and this doesn't add value. I'm very sure this definitely would AI would definitely add value to companies. It's just that it's too early to look into adoption numbers. So we'll
Yeah.
probably, as soon as the numbers come in, the knowledge barriers will come in. Number three is the trust in terms of not just data, but the market, including vendors like us. I think we're responsible for it, because there's been a lot of pushing down of these uh, to the customers by force and not by choice, which I thought is one of the reasons why people lost a lot of trust in it.
Yeah.
Because like, you're seeing hundreds of things, I'm not seeing that, and you're asking me to pay for more on it. Just you're including into my subscriptions. You're asking me to pay on that. You're asking me to pay for another agent, and I'm not really seeing a value. Is this all a bubble again, is the
Yeah.
question that comes up, right? So these three things together, I think, is the reason why there is a lack of adoption. But I'm really sure these are things that we can solve as an industry, and this will be solved definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When you were talking, I was thinking back to Zoho's Analyst Day event, which was earlier this year. And what popped into my head was a fascinating conversation that one of my fellow analysts had on stage with I think it was the CIO, it might have been this chief technology officer of the LA Times. And to your point um, about making a decision on a product
Mhm.
and a vendor, whoever it is within the organization is taking a big leap of faith when they choose to buy your product, right? And
Yeah.
trust me, they know that. And they know that it's their neck that's on the line as it relates to this decision. And what was so interesting when this gentleman from the LA Times was talking, he said, "Listen, when I came to my leadership and said I want to go with Zoho, um, I can promise you that more than a few looked at me and said, Zoho? I haven't even heard of Zoho or why Zoho or whatever." And then he went on to talk about why he had made this selection and the results that he was seeing. But again, I have so much respect for anyone making these decisions, because it is definitely a leap of faith that you have to take.
I know. I mean, in a world of all flashy promises, I think it's good to be a, unknown secret in the industry. I
It
think,
is.
yeah, you find things
It
by
is.
yourself, you usually find more value in it. I'm not saying, I'm not justifying the fact that we're not spending a lot on marketing, but then that's how we are. We like to, improve things first. We like to, work on the basics, provide more value to the users, and then, start talking about it. So even in terms of AI, right? So if you've noticed how we've been doing this, so we're not going overboard on drawing this as a revenue generation thing. So right now AI is not in a revenue generation plan for us, unlike a lot of the other vendors there. So it will be available for free across all of our plans. If you're a
Yeah.
paid user, you'll get it for free. We're not going to increase the price, or we're not going to charge you extra for it. It's some kind of credits will be there available for you by default. You start getting value out of it first, and then we'll figure out the rest later.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, Rakeeb, so we've talked about the barriers, we've talked about the challenges. I would love for you to share some insight on how organizations can proactively address these barriers to the adoption of agentic AI throughout their organizations. What do they do?
I think for starters, believe in it. Uh, I know it's a leap of faith,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it will draw benefits out for you in the coming years. So maybe start with equipping your people to use it. Train, start, bridge the skill gap and the knowledge gap. But there's so much out there that you can do with the existing AI tools on a personal level, on a personal productivity level, and also on an agentic AI level. So that's one thing. Along the way, I would say do smaller experiments and not an entire organization-wide experiment. Say
Right.
probably to start with your sales team, do some agentic workflows there, and then now move on to your marketing and then your HR and things like that. Where I would say convert your traditional workflows into agentic workflows, and then see how that has been working and see what are the differences that you're seeing in terms of traditional and agentic. And from the learnings from that, you kind of take that into other places. uh, Third would be, of course, your data, in terms of the knowledge base. I would say probably have a good level of knowledge base out there so that an AI can come and learn out of it and then start working for your company as one of your own employees, and not as someone that's just randomly talking in terms of that doesn't sound like your own company. So maybe fix the data, have a good knowledge base that your AI can learn out from.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think also, it should go without saying, but I don't think that I don't want to make assumptions, but, things like, investing in governance and educating your workforce. And trust me, your workforce is very eager, and,
Mm.
maybe anxious, but also very eager to learn more
Exactly.
about this. And so I think that this isn't something. I've had lots of conversations, especially with at the enterprise level, of people who have been in charge of AI rollouts throughout their organizations. And to a one,
Mhm.
their success, the greatest success is when they have provided training and accessibility and let their people dive in, experiment, get accustomed to working with AI, see the value that things like agentic AI can deliver and things like that. I think that those play a significant role in breaking down some of those barriers as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would, on a personal level, in my own personal experiments that I've been doing with AI in my company as well, it's very easy to lose faith because you're expecting it to do everything. So when you're expecting it to do everything and it doesn't do everything, it's easy to lose faith. And like, hey, I thought it would do so much, but it's only doing 40 to 50% of what I thought it's doing. It's easy to lose faith and go back to your traditional methods. But I
Yeah.
would say in a year or a year and a half, it definitely is going to improve. This is the most basic version of AI that we're seeing today. That means it can only get improved and can only get better in the
Yeah.
future. That means there's a lot of scope for it to improve, right? So it means never lose faith. Once kind of lose track of all that plans that you've had because you're not seeing what it's supposed to do right now, and a year or two or later, the company, other companies who've actually kept working on it with the faith that they have, may
Yeah.
have better productivity and better skills than your company, which means you're again starting to learn from scratch and all that. So I would suppose, just as a recommendation to companies, I would say never lose faith and just keep at it.
Yeah.
Just that 40 to 50% improvements that you're seeing, or the goals that is being met, maybe take one step at a time, improve by 5%, 10%, and you'll definitely get there where you want someday.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And from my personal experience, working with AI has just been, and I know that many others have experienced this as well, but you're sitting in your office, you're all by yourself, and you're experimenting with something, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And it just, those experiences really, I think, to me personally, feed my desire to do more, to play more, to experiment more, to, push the boundaries. And I think that's not losing the faith, and also keeping your curiosity, I think, really play a big role in, how your progress. So great thoughts there, Rakeeb. So now let's talk about Zoho. So Zoho announced its free agentic AI strategy earlier this year at Analyst Day 2025, and now you've rolled out the actual features embedded across collaboration, customer experience, and HR. And what's different about this is that you've rolled these out at no additional cost to paid subscribers, which is very different from what we're seeing across the industry, from, tons of AI, premium AI pricing tiers, and lots of, I think, lots of confusion about pricing. So walk me through, if you would, what Zoho's thinking, what the strategy is here.
See, this is nothing new in terms of strategy at Zoho. So at Zoho, we've always believed in giving users an ecosystem of products, an ecosystem of business tools, where this one talks to another, and then you get value out of it. The real value of using Zoho is the business operating system approach that we have, right? So that has always been Zoho's goal, or Zoho's kind of differentiator, I would say. With agentic AI, which is kind of replicating that in with our own AI initiatives as well. So with say, for example, one of the agents that we have, that we announced recently, was like I said earlier, the CRM email agent, right? So that kind of works within your email as well as your Zoho CRM, and then kind of pulls in data from all the new emails. It looks into the emails and then converts that into a lead, and all of those things, we believe, is the core of what the experience that we provide is. So that has been, again, one of the more important reasons why there's been barriers, like we discussed, has been itself, is that there's a lot of economics in play, but there's not a lot of
Sure.
value that people are talking about. So we don't want to do that. We want to be like a catalyst to change the industry as well. So we believe this is the way to go forward, where this becomes the core experience itself and not something else.
I remember going back to that Zoho Analyst Day event that apparently is very top of mind for me today. But I remember a moment when Zoho's co-founder, Sweetheart Vembu, shared his belief. And he's got such an interesting personality, and he's so direct and but also incredibly kind. And he flat out said that he believed that charging a premium for AI agents was just not something that he saw as sustainable long term. Obviously, Zoho is leaning way in on this. Why do you feel like this is important?
Yeah, like I said, this is the core business model and the core philosophy here. So if you way back in 2005, way back in 2006, the first thing that we did itself was to develop a suite. So we developed an office suite which also works with your CRM. That has always been our goal. So that has always been the ethos at Zoho, right? So when we say agentic AI, that's exactly what it's doing. So
Yeah.
it is minimizing the UI part, and it's becoming like the AI itself is becoming the UI, and all that is happening in the meanwhile, where you're kind of bypassing using a lot of our products, but you're just getting things done from this product to another product, and then using your own inferences and your own data into it and things like that. So we believe this becomes a core part of the experience that we're going to provide to our users, and not an add-on. uh,
Yeah.
we also don't want to add that additional economic strain on our users
Sure.
by just selling them a dream and not actually delivering it. So we are actually showing them, hey, see, here's how you can make use of it, here's how you can make sense of it, try it. We are not going to charge you extra for it. It comes built in with the product. This
Right.
is what is the power of AI, and try it, and then we obviously we sure you'll love it.
Yeah. A couple of things that I see at play here, Rakeeb. One is, having that single internally developed tech stack
Mhm.
addresses complexity, integration complexity challenges that many customers face. And I think that Zoho does a really good job of solving for that. I've always seen that as a key differentiator. I think the other thing that I see Zoho doing here is that this bet that you're making, the way that you're enabling people to take this leap of faith, to do it in a way that doesn't add incremental cost, it will no doubt spur adoption, which I think in the long run, for the company as a whole, for your customers, and for the industry, I think that move will spur adoption in a way that is probably exponentially more valuable than premium pricing.
Exactly. I'll give you an example, just probably for our users to understand as well. Say you have this use case that says, I'm going to a meeting with, say, Zilka. Okay. Find me all conversations I've had with Zilka across channels,
Yeah.
summarize them, put it into a document, and then let me know, train me on that information before I go and attend that meeting. Okay. Say you're doing something like this. Of course, Zoho can do this because it is multi-channel. It gives you email, chat, CRM,
Yeah.
your meetings and everything all in one place, right? But imagine if Zoho didn't really have a purpose-built LLM for this, that is done in and that resides our own on our own servers, and not exchanging your data with other companies. Imagine
Yeah.
if we didn't have that. So we'd probably have to go with one AI vendor for a particular, you say, probably to look into all your call data, that an
Right.
AI vendor that does call data well, an AI vendor that does textual data well, an AI vendor that does CRM and analysis and insights and all that well. Imagine the amount of exchange that happens with your data if Zoho really didn't have that in-house. Okay, so that's why we've worked really hard on working on ZILLM, which is very core to a philosophy. So right now, very soon, you'll be able to do this if we have internal prototypes already ready, where you look into Zia, then say, find me all conversations I've had on this. It will automatically go into your emails. It will automatically go into your CRM notes, for example. It will go
Yeah.
into your documents. It will go into your call recordings that your agents have had with that person uh,
Okay.
via Sales IQ and Zoho Voice. You'll go into your chats that you've had within your colleagues about that person, particular company. So it's not just your conversation with that particular company, it's also about that particular company. So you as a manager, for example, you're getting a complete rundown of what's happening with that particular customer in one prompt, and Zoho is doing this agentic work of going across all of these systems, bringing them into one system and then showing it to you. Yeah, so this is very important to our philosophy of a connected operating system. And LLM only makes sense because we have to build it ourselves. Only then our privacy angle also works as committed, is that we never sell your data to third party vendors. So that's why it was very important for us to build it ourselves. And we don't really look into it as a revenue generation aspect. We look into it as a value generation aspect.
I'm smiling when I'm listening to you talk about this functionality, because I'm thinking about the hundreds of times I have been preparing for a meeting, of course, at the last minute, because that's who I am, and digging through email and recorded conversations and this, and feeling so stressed because of course I waited until the last minute to do this. And so if you're hearing this and nodding along as I am, you'll understand, like, this is really cool, to be able to go to this deep integration, eliminating the need to jump from place to place, working across multiple apps simultaneously, all of that cross app intelligence where agents can pull data from multiple apps simultaneously. Like, oh my gosh, that's music to my multitasking ears.
Thank you. Yeah, and there's also I'm going to be very honest here. There's also other vendors that kind of sell this dream as well. bought for a
Yeah.
hefty price. So, and
Yeah.
there's multiple vendors now talking about this, and then there is the stigma that's created in the market where you say, hey, everyone's talking about this, but I'm not really seeing it. You're asking me to pay upfront and then
Yeah.
do this and all that. So that's why the real, if you ask me why the strategy of giving it free bundled in with our own subscriptions is because of this, right? So we want to remove that stigma. It's like, hey, come see, this is what Zoho is all about. Come see the thing in action yourself.
Yeah. Well, and you talked a little bit about, I love Rakeeb really being able to focus on use cases, because a lot of what we talk about is, requires you to, imagine how this will work, right? But the reality of it is, you talked a little bit about, an example of finding emails from someone, putting them into a document, that sort of thing. You talked a little bit about lead generation and identifying sales queries and opportunities in mail, and how that connects to the CRM. Um, some other things that I think are really key here is, when it comes to customer experience, kind of the functionality here that is at play, and also what we see happening in Zoho as it relates to human resources. Will you touch for me briefly on both customer experience and HR, and kind of how some features that really are developed specifically to assist on this front?
Definitely, yeah, because uh, we have the core of a customer experience suite that kind of also connects with your other apps. Like I said, when you want to find an information about a customer, usually vendors would look into the chats, emails, and stuff like that. But we are also now opening up Zoho
Right.
Desk, Zoho Sales IQ, Zoho Voice, which is our call center,
Yeah.
command center kind of a voice platform, which also has recordings of the conversations that you've had with that particular customer. So your entire customer experience or your customer transactions that you had with a customer is also now loaded into your Zia interface. That means, which means you can find all of them in one place. We've always had that, but you now bring that into your prompts. That's easier to find all of that as part of a prompt as well, which means you're
Right.
not really specifically mentioning go into my CX suite and then do it, but we just say go into my customer and look into this. It understands that a customer means a customer has a lot of these touch points, which means it also needs these and all that. Talking about HR, one thing that comes to my mind, just something that you and me probably would use it as an end user and not really as an HR, is that say we are replying to an email, right? So all of us do that. I get an email that says, hey, are you available at this point at this particular time? I'm in town. Can we meet and all that?
Yeah.
We sometimes we just look into our calendar, and then you'll have a personal calendar and stuff like that. But then some of those might not have your entire HR details, which is like you're out of office, or you're going on a vacation, you're planned, or there is a holiday in the company, or there's some HR related events that are stated and all those. So what we do is we just not look into your personal calendar, but we also look into your Zoho people calendar. So whether you have a planned vacation, you have a holiday, a national holiday that's coming up in the future and all that. So all of those data from your HR interface also will come into place when you're actually replying to an email to a friend of yours talking about availability. So that's one of the things that we've done within the HR space. We've also worked on a lot of document automation aspects as well, with Zoho Writer, connecting it to Zoho People, Zoho Sign, and all that. Again, helping you create that workflow across multiple apps.
Right. Right. And I also think that there's something that relates to candidate matches and job matches, and how Zoho Recruit uses maybe contextual analysis in a way that allows for to speed the process up, the hiring
Yes, yes.
process up.
We are again testing this out internally. We are hoping to release this quite soon as well. Where similar to your the CX suite, the example that I gave, right? You get emails, and then you look into it and you convert into a lead. Similar way, say you're hiring for a job, you automatically receive a lot of emails with attachments on resume and stuff like that. So what we are very soon going to do is that once you set up, you connect Zoho Mail and Zoho Recruit automatically, we'll have a recruitment agent that is part of Zoho Mail that will look into your emails and also the attachment. And based on the content of the attachment, it will actually post it back to your recruitment profile, so that you have your candidates automatically sourced from your emails into your recruitment profile. So all you have to do is just go into your Zoho Recruit profile and then see it there, and not go through each of these emails, add it back there
Yeah.
manually. So that's something that's going to be happening very soon as well.
Oh, that's really exciting. I pointed to a couple of examples that as an analyst, I will say this. I spend my days at customer events, at vendor events, and I hear lots of great messaging from the brand and all of that. But my favorite thing always is real world customer examples. It's kind of, I pointed to the LA Times gentleman. Those are the things that I remember more than anything. And I think that customers and prospective customers, I think what we're all looking for is a story, a real world use case story that we can point to and say, that is exactly what I'm trying to solve for, or that is what I'm dealing with. And, feeling like you're sort of not in this alone. When I was writing about Zoho's Agentic AI news here recently, I saw that some of the information that you all shared was that a customer from Arctic Spas was sharing his experience, and he was talking about scaling from managing 300 leads a week to almost 1,000 leads a week using Zoho's AI features. What do you think is, I know this is not the only success story, Rakeeb, but what do you think is driving results like that? And what are you hearing from other early adopters? Are there any other customer use cases I can talk you into sharing with us?
Yeah, a couple of customers, especially in the fintech space, that we worked really hard on was something called a threat mitigation agent. So what we've done is that we are using AI to look into your emails. So of course, all of the emails that land by default into Zoho Mail, for example, does go through multiple levels of your spam checks and all that, right? But
Right.
there's also something called a 0-day attack that happens, which is out of syllabus. This randomly comes in the new thing that you're not aware of, but there is something that's happening in the market, but it just it's new. So we have a threat mitigation agent that looks into 0-day attacks like these. So it constantly looks into in published catalogs of these threats of 0-day attacks from the internet. It also looks into monitors whether there is some kind of a malicious activity that's happening in your inbox. Once we've seen that there's some kind of a pattern that's developing here, we automatically remove these attachments, move them to quarantine, and also inform the agent, system admin of that particular company. And then once the system admin comes in, they can clearly know who are these people who clicked on these particular emails, who are the people who have not clicked on these emails, the good souls who's actually reported these emails, and who are the liable ones who kind of are viable into falling into these traps and all that. You can look into those details and also send them follow-up content, which is like your training materials and stuff like that, so that you can make sure this doesn't happen again. Because this is something a lot of our fintech, like financial companies, banks, and the other vendors that we work with have been talking to us about email security. So we did use AI to strengthen that. Like I said, we're not into a lot of these flashy AI features that we just make a lot of dream out there, but we are also working on stuff like this, where these are real world cases. These are sometimes very boring cases. I'm sure a lot of our audience would feel bored when I was just talking about threat mitigation agents. Like, it doesn't sound very flashy, but imagine for a fintech company, it's very, very important, because they're prone to these attacks every other day. Email attacks have been only increasing every other day. And
Yeah.
it can, once you fall into it, there are billions and billions of dollars in play here. So we want to make sure our customers are prevented from that. So we worked with our customers for something like that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, another non-flashy but critical topic, Rakeeb, is privacy. And I know that I don't have to tell you, how privacy is a major concern with AI, especially
Mhm.
around how vendors use customer data to train their models. What's
Mhm.
Zoho's approach here?
We're very clear on this. So there's no hidden literature or anything that you would see around this. One, we never use your data to train our models.
Okay.
Everything has been publicly sourced, responsibly sourced data that we're using to train our models. Two, we will always give you an option to choose between us versus other vendors. The other vendors are not enabled by default. So there's nothing happening in the backend. There's no exchange between Zoho and another third-party vendor for some amounts of money where we
Okay.
enable it by default and all your data is shared with that particular vendor. No, that doesn't happen as well. So we always have that option. It's turned on, but if you want to use our AI bridge, you can use it and connect with the other parties based on your own respective policies that you apply in your companies. Three, all of these data will always, like I said, remain in Zoho's own data centers and not leave our own data centers. So Zoho LLM will be built by us, maintained by us, and then stored in Zoho's own LLMs, I mean, Zoho's own data centers, so that there's no leakage of information there as well. So these are some of the things that we really, really want to stress out there as our default policies and not as some hidden literature anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. And I think to me, that completely self-contained infrastructure that Zoho brings is very attractive.
Yeah, I mean, it may not. This would also mean that we may have to compromise on some of the things in terms of features or in terms of the size of the model. So,
Right.
like we said, we're very focused on business use cases, and we're not making a general purpose LLM out there. They can do a lot of the other things that the general purpose LLMs right now are doing. We may
Yeah,
not be able to do that because that's the choice that we're making. But in terms of business use cases, we are focused on that.
I like it. So, Rakiv, you're positioning this rollout as particularly impactful for regions like Africa and for small and mid-sized businesses. And I know that Zoho has a large presence also in the Indian market. Why is
Yeah.
this approach especially significant for these markets?
I would like to see it as a leveler. So it is one, like I said earlier in the interview, it is one of those rare opportunities in tech where it transcends. It takes like a giant leap, right? So when you take a giant leap, it also helps a lot of other economies or other companies who are probably at an earlier stages of their digital transformation to take a
Right.
giant leap and be on a level playing field with other vendors or other companies in other countries out there, other economies out there, right? So this kind of, as we bundle it with our own products, we see, especially in developing countries, there's a lot of digital transformation that's still happening. People are still moving from legacy systems over to the cloud. People are moving
Right.
from their traditional systems to the cloud, to the tech world and things like that. And you imagine, give AI also along with this kind of transcends their digital transformation and kind of helps them skip another 10 years in between, and then be on par with other markets as well. So this is something that we are adding as an additional value to these developing countries. Yes.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And really, what I see is that, you're kind of addressing that adoption paradox. Like businesses don't want to invest until they see results, but you can't see results without investing. So when you make it,
Yeah.
when you have this leveled playing field and, you're not, it's got a plug and play model, no specialized tech resources required, that sort of thing, and breaks down those financial barriers. I think really it's an important part of kind of empowering the world,
Yeah.
cheesy as it sounds, but
Yeah.
this kind of technology shouldn't just be for people who can afford to spend lots of money.
Yeah, I mean, Zoho, if you've spoken to some of these customers in these markets, Zoho is actually very well respected. I'm
Yeah.
very happy about it for this entire purpose that you just mentioned, right? So Zoho is
Yeah.
respected for the value it brings out, high quality software in an affordable price, and that has always been one of the main reasons why people respect us in these countries as well. So
Yeah.
that's a given for us in these markets. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Rakeeb, this strategy is a very big deal. It's a direct challenge to how the rest of the industry is monetizing AI.
Mm.
In fact, what you hear, from the industry as a whole is, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe every time I turn around, my costs increase, and the price of seats increase, and everything else." How do you think that we'll see other vendors follow suit? On this monetization strategy, or will this continue to be a differentiator for Zoho specifically?
I wouldn't comment on. I wouldn't want to comment on the monetization part. I would still think, because there's a lot of money involved in a lot of these transactions that we're seeing every other day. I'm not quite sure whether other vendors will follow suit in the way Zoho is working on. I would say they would follow suit on the data leveling aspect of things, where they kind of bring all of these data into one single stack and then help customers approach that action, the chain of actions, and then multiple contextual things across the systems into one place. But again, even there, Zoho is in a very unique position, because we have, how many companies would would have a CX suite, an HR suite, an accounting suite, and also a email and collaboration and a productivity suite all together, right? So it's very
Right.
rare of a combination there, and we will continue to invest in connecting all of these, because we have, anyways, we are well positioned in terms of data. All of this is in the same tech stack. All of this is in the same data center and the same data formats as well. So that helps us, makes it easier for us to kind of build these experiences for our users on a single data stack. I'm pretty sure the industry will also come into that kind of a structure very soon. I'm not sure how that's happening. Maybe a lot of acquisitions will happen, a lot of mergers will happen, and all
Yeah.
that. But we're seeing that already, right? We saw some of the acquisitions yesterday, where Superhuman, Grammarly
Yeah. Yeah.
spoke about the similar things, right? They spoke about bringing all of these in, and then adding an AI assistant, so that the assistant can take actions based on your calendar events and
Yeah.
your email chats and everything. So that's something that I'm seeing would happen in terms of monetization. Personally, I don't think other vendors will follow suit, but happy to be proven wrong on that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, Rakeeb, as we wrap up, what's your advice for organizations who are hesitant about taking the agentic AI leap? What should they be thinking about as they would evaluate whether or not now is the right time to move forward?
I would say, keep that inner geek in you. Always stay a geek. Stay excited about this. I know you would have seen a lot of these announcements. You would have gotten excited about it. Started some of those projects, but then stopped halfway because you're only seeing half of what you thought it can do. I'm sure this is the worst AI can ever be. So please do keep that leap of faith, and progress. Do put some progress on that, maybe smaller progresses, but then put some progress on that as the technology matures. Choose, like I said, don't try to implement it all at once. Choose smaller teams, smaller projects, and then try to implement it. Try to replace your traditional structures, your traditional workflows, which is all all static and rule based and stuff like that, with
Right.
agentic AI, and then see what you learn from it. uh, of course, Zoho is available there for you to kind of be a playground for all of these as well. But then uh, really what you find as value is what will drive the market forward. So be vocal about it. So don't let the companies go around, including Zoho. Don't let the vendors force things on you. Be you, the customer has to be always the driving force of the market, and not the vendors. So the customers has to come out, and then if there is something that you see that you think is not adding enough value, but a lot of vendors are talking about it, maybe speak that up and let the vendors change course.
Fantastic advice, especially the part about leaning into continuing to be that geek, that curious geek. I love
Exactly.
it. I love it. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Age of AI. Zoho is obviously taking a big swing here. Its free agentic AI strategy represents a fundamental shift in how enterprise software vendors approach AI monetization. By eliminating cost as a barrier, by reducing integration complexity to zero through a single tech stack approach, and then maintaining this privacy first approach as well. That's an integral part of Zoho as a whole. Zoho, I see here, is addressing some of the core reasons why we see IT executives who believe in AI's potential aren't using it. So breaking down those barriers is what I see happening here. And I think part of Zoho's overall value proposition is, with 130 million users on the platform, this could well be a catalyst that transforms AI from a premium feature into something that makes it turns it into an accessible business essential. Well, thanks to you, Rakeeb Rafeek, Head of Brand Marketing for Zoho Workplace, for joining me today, for the great insights you've shared about why the adoption of agentic AI in the workplace is important, how to think about removing those barriers and spurring adoption, and what you and the team at Zoho are doing to make that easy for customers. Thank you to all our viewers and listeners for spending time with us today. I'm Shelley Kramer, signing off until next time.